All right, I'd like to call to order Monday, April 15th, 2024, our Urban Renewal Agency meeting at 6:30. All of us are present with Jeanette is online, I believe. I saw your picture, Jeanette, Counselor or Agent Santiago. We are joined today by our newest agent, Agent Bailey. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you all for coming. Looking for an approval of the agenda. Urban Renewal Agency meeting.
Mayor, I so move approval.
Agent Jacobs to approve the agenda tonight's meeting. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Agent Bailey. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public comment. Tonight, this is the place on the agenda where public is invited to speak to council regarding any matter not on the agenda and not scheduled for public hearing. Members of the public addressing council are requested to give their name and city of residence. Please try not to repeat questions to allow for more speakers. Speakers are to limit their testimony to 5 minutes as we're limited to 30 minutes total for all public comments. We have one tonight. Pritchard like to speak. We do have only 30 minutes, so we have a lot of questions tonight. So let's try to get through these. And if we have time at the end, then we'll continue. But let's try to move along. I'll start a clock. Just
do my best to speed.
Thank you.
Right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council President, members of the council. My name is Jeff Pritchard. I'm the fire chief with the Scappoose Fire District, and I'm here representing the voice of the Scappoose Fire District Board, as well as the 15,000 residents that have dedicated and directed their hard-earned tax dollars to fund public safety. That includes law enforcement, the 911 district, and of course, the Scappoose Fire District. Before I get into the specific details of our statement of opposition of the expansion of the Urban Renewal District, which you are going to be discussing tonight, there are a few things that we would like to get on the record. First, we're very appreciative of the opportunity to communicate with the mayor and Councilor Holmes about the fire district's concerns previous to this meeting. As a partner agency with a long history of working together with the city, we value the opportunity to have open dialogue about situations like this. The fire district wants to be on the record for not being in opposition to the idea of urban renewal. Recognize the potential values that this brings to the community now and into the future. Fire District is also thankful of all the other partnership opportunities that we have and the strong working relationship with several of the city department heads and staff in the various joint city fire district ventures and collaborations. We look forward to continued partnerships, and we hope that the city is willing to resolve our concerns sooner than later. Second, it is recommended by your neighbor and partner, which is us, that before any expansion of the Urban Renewal District occurs, the concerns that were brought up at the previous meeting are addressed. It's a good faith effort of the council working on behalf of the city. It would make sense that resolving a tax compression issue is of the utmost importance, especially knowing that the city's urban renewal plan with a specific property was the cause of this tax compression. Not addressing this tax problem and kicking the proverbial can down the road is not showing partnership and being a good neighbor. Remember, your plan is negatively impacting more than just the fire district. One of the reasons why we're here is there are several complexities to the Urban Renewal District plan that were not captured appropriately, and specifically we're referring to industrial properties. This is easily identified in the urban renewal plan, where there is a difference between commercial properties and valuations and industrial properties and valuations. And in a nutshell, as you heard before in the previous meeting, there's a relationship between the real market value and the assessed value. That gap and the increase in real market value is what makes an urban renewal district successful. Unfortunately, when the Cascade Tissue property was developed, it was not classified as commercial, it was classified as industrial, which means there is no gap. Essentially, you go from having a tax that would bring in, say, $5 to a tax that would bring in $10. Industrial property has no differentiation. It is the full enchilada. And that is what caused us to go into compression. So I think it is important moving forward that we consider how to mitigate that before we ever step foot talking about an expansion of the urban renewal district. We are hoping that the council takes no action tonight on the staff report as presented, because the staff report isn't really representative of what is happening with this particular annex property. This should be a community discussion, and the community isn't really aware of what is occurring with this annexation. While it's not legally required for you to go through a big community involvement, adding $2 million to the maximum indebtedness of in a new project to the urban renewal plan is a pretty significant thing for our small community. $2 million is a lot of money. We hope that things like this are not brought to the council by an interim city manager. This is something that should be brought forth to the council and the community by someone who's vested in the community, who hasn't been here, for a short time. We would hope that this would get pushed to the next city manager, whose job is to be vested in the community, to understand all of the problems that we've been talking about since the beginning of urban renewal. A change like this should come from months of research and lots of deliberation, not what we have experienced here. Yes, in a way, what we look at with this new annexation is it's a way of robbing Peter to pay Paul. We understand that there are some projects that the city needs to get done, but the city can't afford to do those projects. So now we have a creative way where we're adding property to take money from a fund that this project wasn't actually called out for initially. We believe that this project, the projects in the urban renewal district should be completed first before we add any additional projects. Almost done, just a couple more sentences, sorry. It's also important to note that the city was the recipient of the American Rescue Plan dollars, or ARPA dollars, as a result, to directly benefit some of the projects in urban renewal. At the last meeting, the mayor and some of the councilors stated that this was a very complicated issue and more time would be needed to decide what we should do with this tax compression issue. We hope that you'll use that same cautious approach and not take any action tonight on the expansion of the urban renewal district. Let's fix the problem first, which is the tax compression, before making a big change. Again, really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the 15,000 residents of the fire district. And I am more than happy to answer any questions at this time.
Chief Pritchard, I do have a question. I just want to clarify that it's the classification of Cascade Tissues being classified as industrial that's causing the $2 million? $2
million.
You mentioned $2 million in your statement. I just want to clarify that that's what we would get back if Cascade Tissues was classified as commercial instead of industrial?
No, the $1 million reference was related to the annexation of the new property.
Okay.
Sorry, I did not articulate that well enough.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure I was following you correctly. Thank you.
I don't have any questions at this time. I'm sure I do have some, and they'll come up as we speak with Durham City Manager, I'm sure.
If I
Yes.
could just make a comment, I really do appreciate the time and the visit and the resources that you put together. And it really does kind of help explain where there may be some challenges with the properties and compression. And so when we do talk further about the urban renewal district, it would be really helpful, I think, if the other counselors could get the same information from you, just to help inform the conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey,
There's supplemental information.
I met with the fire chief and he put together a little packet, which would be helpful.
but I did get, thanks Susan, this urban renewal kind of it was very helpful, kind of our program, what it started, why it started, you know, how we went through the process. So that's good. And we're all got that now and
Yes.
learning that ourselves. So you ready to follow that, Larry?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I guess I need to approve, we have a approval of minutes from last meeting, February 2024, Urban Renewal Agency meeting minutes. I'm looking for an approval of the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Holmes makes a motion to approve the minutes. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Council President, Agent President Greisen, or first time I said that, Agent President Miller. Habit. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, so now new business. We do have in front of us
Aye.
a resolution 1-2024. An interim city manager, Larry Lehman, if you'd like to go over it.
Yes, Your Honor and members. First of all, this does not increase the maximum indebtedness of the agency. This uses part of that indebtedness, does not increase the amount. In fact, by doing this, will actually speed up the demise of the Urban Renewal Agency is that the maximum indebtedness is achieved. Make sense? So what we have here then is we have the project, of course, is the Keys Reservoir. From the memo there, you can tell that we got in just right at $5 million of ARPA funds for that. That leaves us short about $6 million. We have approximately $3,200. I'm sorry, $2,000 in the water fund that can be used, leaving us then $3.2 million short. You follow me? I didn't mean to. What this does then, this says to accomplish that, let's use some urban renewal funds, which is the absolute perfect use of urban renewal funds is for infrastructure improvements. That's kind of the main intent of urban renewal. We could use that to help fill that gap. The Urban Renewal Agency, annexing this in, brings that into the Urban Renewal District, allowing you to fund that. And this would be, when you do that, the amount of property of the Keys Reservoir is a little bit less than 4 acres, which means it's less than 1%. So you can do that just through a simple resolution like this. So really, you're facing, I think, 3 choices. Are we going to do the project? I think probably the answer to that is yes, we're going to find a way to do that. But we need to come up with the dollars. The recommendation here is that you adopt this and you use $2.1 million, 1.15 of urban renewal funds to help do that. You would have that money coming in with the money you have this year, next year, and by the time the reservoir is done, you'd have that amount paid off. Because the reservoir will be done. We'll work on it this year, but probably will not be completed until actually, let's say, the beginning of 2025, the fiscal year. So that's the recommendation here. If we don't do that, then I guess the council's challenge then is where do you obtain those funds if you're going to do the project? We outlined here that the most natural way, and not recommending this at all, but most of the time you'd look at, well, let's raise water revenues because it's a water reservoir. And we gave you some examples of what that would take. So if you take the $2 million and put that at 5% over 5, 10, or 20 years, then you have the amount of increase it would take in those water rates. I have taken it a little bit further just to give you dollar amounts then. So a 5%, if you use the 5 years, that would be approximately $9 per month for each household. And that would be based on a 16% increase. A 10 years at 9% would be about $5.40 month increase in everybody's water rates. And in 20 years, would be like 3.3 if you could borrow that kind of money for that length of time. Keep in mind, you already have a rate increase going into effect in July, 2.7. assisted me a while ago to follow the average of 20 cities. So that comes to 2.7. You'll get that in a resolution probably in June, but that's already kind of being figured in. So these rate increases will be on top of that. I guess my position is that you're representing all the citizens of Scappoose. Many of those are in the ones in the fire district also. What is better to do? Increase the water rates like this, or use this money for what it really should be intended for, which is improvement in the district, especially for infrastructure. It's kind of why it was set up, and to me, it's just the ideal project.
Okay, Agent Santiago, did you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to, thank you, Larry. Thank you but if I know that being remotely, if I can ask or anyone that is referring to information, if we can let me know what page you're referring to, especially you're talking about figures and numbers, because we did get a pretty big package here. And so I want to make sure I'm following.
No, what I'm referring to then is just the one page which has the staff report on it.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
I'm sorry, it is numbered. I'm sorry, page 13.
Okay,
And then,
I appreciate that. Thank
and then
you.
on to page 14. So on page 14 gives you the percentage of rate increases. Since then, I've taken that percentage and actually turned into a dollar amount. You don't have that listed there.
Okay, I think I have a little bit different here, but I'll try to follow through. Follow with
Let me
with
just,
everyone.
if you could just note that, okay, on your list there, it says, for example, a 5-year payoff would be approximately 16% increase. A 10-year payoff approximately 9%. A 20-year payoff approximately 5.5% increase. See that in number 2 option? Option number 2.
On page 14.
I don't have what you're looking. I don't. My page 14 does not look that way. So that's what I'm
I was
saying.
gonna say, is it an addendum?
That's in the council packet.
It's in the council.
Okay, I have the urban renewal packet. That's what I'm looking at. Sorry.
Yeah, it's our council packet.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I'll kind of go over. I appreciate, Larry, this information. I do feel that looking through our urban renewal book, these are the types of projects that they wanted to use this money for, infrastructure. They didn't identify this one back 4 or 5 years ago because at the time they didn't necessarily see it as the need. They did have other ones though that related to water, a lot of Miller Road, and they itemize it based on how many millions of dollars. We did get a lot of it was, some of it was transportation, a lot of water, a lot of septic, sewer, wastewater treatment plant in things, but they did get a lot of money from ARPA. So I think when that would happen, I would then look at changing this up, updating it to what are the projects that we see going forward that would help. And kind of learning what these are for. This is the kind of the thing that we would look at using the money for. My biggest concern is kind of what Chief Pritchard brought up, is that this compression issue is a big deal. In the 15 months I've been here, we hear it a lot. It's hard to go forward when we are all in compression. And is there something wrong here that is causing us, if every property, we've got someone that might build out there, and I'm thinking all this tax dollars, but if it puts us further and further in compression, then it's not helping us in this matter. So I am kind of concerned and want to learn more about urban renewal, see if they're classified in a way that it's going to cause us more and more problems as businesses start to prove out there. I mean, our goal is to entice companies out there to raise our tax base. But if every one of them puts us further and further in compression because they aren't classified properly as industrial versus commercial, it kind of concerns me. But this is the idea that I'm thinking you would use that money for, to prevent having to raise rates it starts to bring in more businesses. You can pay the loan back every year with the increase in tax revenues. I mean, that's kind of what it was set up for. I am a little concerned right now, trying to make a big decision in 5 minutes, 10 minutes with a lot of unknowns.
I have a couple of questions. I do appreciate the creative thinking on this to try to fill that gap that's come up. So if you're suggesting this property were annexed into the urban renewal district, we could have that budget gap covered by the end of 2025, you said?
Yes,
Does that mean we could make no decision around Cascade Tissue or other property prior to then? Are we kind of locked into the
We are
current
locked in.
trajectory?
correct. A decision, and as we do the budget and so forth, we have $1 million now. We expect about $1 million next fiscal year, starting in July, I mean, and then the rest would come the next year.
Okay.
Yes.
And maybe a question for Dave. Dave, before this opportunity, came before us, what were some of the alternative funding options that you were exploring beyond just the rate increases? Are there any other funding options?
For the reservoir specifically,
Yeah, for filling that gap on the reservoir?
it'll be one version or another of debt. The city will be taking on debt to fund this.
You pay it with rates or budget or other cuts would be a debt you have to pay. I didn't see up there, Dave, but I didn't want to speak for you, but in your mind, I mean, these water projects are kind of what you're thinking when you think of urban renewal, correct?
That is correct. This is exactly the mechanism for these projects. I think at the time that the renewal district was put in place, this project wasn't on the radar, or this would have been a common sense decision. I do want to point out that with the ARPA, as you've mentioned, there's going to be a restructuring of the projects, because some of and I apologize for not having the plan in front of me, but some of the projects identified in there are receiving ARPA dollars. So in some ways, this is kind of a wash. It's more of just a restructuring. I also want to point out that I think you have two different issues at hand. This really has no bearing on the compression. I feel like that's probably a discussion for all of you at a later time. This is merely accepting this project into the district, which to me makes perfect sense. This, as you mentioned, is exactly the intent of it.
You, Dave, I do agree. I mean, I don't have a problem bringing this into the urban renewal district. The property looks like it's under the amount of acres that you can bring it in, and a minor adjustment. It is what the urban renewals around water infrastructure, wastewater. I'm just kind of concerned about funding mechanism of it too. And my other question was, does the water have to be used for urban renewal district businesses? Is there a percentage? Like if you're saying 21%, this water will be servicing mostly residential customers. But is it completely allowed to be paid for by urban renewal dollars, even though the water leaves and goes outside of the urban renewal district?
It's very hard to determine exactly what it's going to be used at. As far as where, but the idea that 21% is based on the amount of property within the urban renewal district and the city of Scappoose. So 21% of the property of Scappoose is in the urban renewal district with this.
So my thoughts were then 21% of the water leaving the reservoir will be going into the urban renewal.
Not necessarily.
Legally, you can use that water can go anywhere.
Correct.
And still be paid for by ARPA or urban renewal money.
And a lot of it we use for fire suppression.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So I want to make sure while we have time that this is put on the record. I have big concerns if this council considers increasing water rates further to help fund the gap on this project. We are in the middle of, as the interim manager stated, we're already in the middle of a 5-year rate increase for water rates as well as sewer. And our community has felt the impact of those rate increases. So I think it's imperative that we not look at increasing the water rates to our residents. Yeah. I also think that the urban renewal packet documents here, I think we need to also take the position that project doesn't necessarily have to be specified, that this is directionally correct. The way we use master plans as well, as long as there are things directionally correct. This is critical infrastructure that's required for the livelihood of our community. So I would just give caution if we create additional bureaucracy.
Thank you. Understood. One question I do have for you, Dave or Larry, is what time frame do you need to make a decision on your funding source for this? Like when, when can we make a decision before you have to go out and get a loan versus borrowing against the urban renewal? Is there a time frame?
Dave, can I ask, when do you expect this to be bid out?
The project will be going to bid within the next month. And we're currently working with the state to try to secure the loan for that. I don't know the exact time frame. I imagine we'll hear within the next 4 weeks on that as well. I mean, time is of the essence. We're moving forward with this project. We hope to have a contractor up there beginning excavation this summer. So we definitely need to have a plan in place. And we're, as we speak, wrapping up the budget for the upcoming year. It would also be nice to know how we're structuring that.
When is our next scheduled urban renewal meeting? Do we have one coming up?
There isn't one scheduled.
Should have one to look at grant applications. June, I believe.
I do believe the budget meeting is the only one that's scheduled right now. After the 1st of July.
Oh, I do realize we're running out of time, but have a kind of critical timing question on the project here. So Dave, if we were to not choose to do this tonight and you had to go out and maybe pursue a loan, by securing that loan, does it make the project then ineligible for future urban renewal funding?
You would probably need somebody a little more urban renewal experience to know if you can do that on reimbursement basis or not. That's ultimately what we would be looking at.
Yeah, because I do that the timing of all this, I don't want to put us in a position that we can't consider the properties and compression and all of that.
I would pursue and move on and get the loan. I mean, I would have to look at doing it as a loan, but then within the next month or two, if this came along and you could use this, could you change your course?
I guess the question I have is why would we put city on a loan? We have a mechanization that would allow us to help fund part of this project. I guess I'm not quite understanding what the big, like, what's the trade-off? that
Mr.
we're really
Mayor?
talking
Yes.
about?
The issue is that, like the fire chief said, is that our voters vote on things like option levies at a rate to fund their operations. They come up with that rate through calculations based on what they need to fund their operations. The voters then vote on that and they've approved it, and then we're taking the money away from them. So it creates a very awkward situation, lack of a better term.
Correct, but with all due respect, I think I heard the number last time Chief Pritchard was here was $11,000.
He's gonna say it's not accurate. It is accurate when it comes to compression. If you talk about urban renewal, the urban renewal takes away more from the fire district than the compression does. Just having the urban renewal agency. That's the reason you have one. The money comes from somewhere. And it comes from all the other districts into the urban renewal district. For example, the mayor mentioned, let's say a big building gets built out, a big complex. All that money will come to the district. None of it would go, the increase would go to the fire district until the district is over, then it's released.
Could we be looking at two different issues then? I know we need to move on, but I think I do agree that this is the kind of the project for this. Whether we've got a year already saved up with another year coming, that maybe that's almost enough to cover this thing. I'm then also looking at the future to make sure that classification going forward, that is, it's not going to cause more issues. Maybe they're not related. Maybe they're separate.
I think we need to come back and have further discussion about this at a later time.
So I think so too. Let's try to get it on the next meeting as soon as possible then within the next, every meeting, see if there's a 30-minute work session available and we can do some research and find out, get our questions answered.
Yeah, and if we really could also answer that question about, if we find an interim funding mechanism to get the project rolling, does that then make it ineligible to use urban renewal
Or
dollars?
can we use the million we have now, because we have it? Use that at least, and then use more going forward. You see fit. If you have a microphone.
Well, I created this urban renewal district, so I know a little bit about it, and it took us 3 years to do it. And one of the things that's critical to always remember is that you can modify an urban renewal plan. So you can add projects, so you have that flexibility. And when it was put together, nobody had a crystal ball that of all the projects, we just knew that it was a significant tool to help pay for infrastructure that the city didn't have need to pay for, and it was a critical tool for that, and it was that or raise rates, and that wasn't very attractive. What changed that was all this federal money you got, that kind of changed it and helped pay for some of those projects. So I think you have flexibility, and it's very common to modify urban renewal plans. Every city in Columbia County has an urban renewal plan. City of Hood River has 3. They're a very common tool that is very valuable if it's used wisely. Sorry to take your time.
No, I think we're mostly in agreement that that is the use of it is what Larry has brought forward. I just want to make sure.
Just for the record, that was Mike Sykes who just gave testimony.
Former city manager.
I don't believe that you can do it, you couldn't use it unless that added to the.
Right.
So that piece is critical to using any of the money.
Does anybody want to make a motion to add it to the urban renewal district? Be okay at that point, or do we still want more time on that?
Ready to move forward.
So the motion would be add the property to the urban renewal district, but not move forward with, but have further discussion on funding this specific project with urban renewal dollars.
That at this time, if you guys feel comfortable making a motion to at least move it into the urban renewal district. All of our other water facilities were, wastewater all was, not sure why the Keys Reservoir area was left off. But Agent Santiago,
I think we're past time, but I don't think we were given enough time to make a decision. It seems, just listening to everyone, we're still not very clear, and I don't want to make a decision if I'm not 100% clear what I'm agreeing to. So that's just for the record.
you good there then? Got an idea, but let's try to get another meeting on books as soon as possible. Yep. Right. Meeting adjourned.